This is Barry Zalma on insurance. For some reason, mold has become a rather important aspect of insurance claims, with many lawsuits being filed claiming damages as a result of infestation of various types of mold or fungi. To understand what's going on, it's first necessary to understand what mold is. The term mold is defined as a simple microscopic organism that is found everywhere, indoors and outdoors. Mold belongs to the Fungi Kingdom. All molds are fungi, but not all fungi are molds. Mold is a microscopic version of a mushroom. Like mushrooms, most molds consist of a fruiting body, a root system, and very small seeds known as spores. The filaments are the root system that micro-fungi send into whatever material they are growing on so that they can soften and digest the material. Mold is everywhere. It is a living thing that is neither animal nor what usually is considered a plant. It grows naturally outdoors. The spores which mold create in order to reproduce are present in the air. When mold moves indoors, it grows rapidly in environments that contain an excessive amount of moisture. Homeowners unintentionally create good conditions for mold growth through moisture collected from a leaky roof, a broken pipe, clogged drainage systems, or lack of waterproofing materials in a shower stall. Any one of these things can initiate the process of mold growth. In addition to the presence of moisture, mold needs a nutrient source to develop and spread. The necessary nutrients are present in most homes and commercial structures. Nutrients that are consumed by molds include wallpaper, cardboard, ceiling tiles, wood products, newspapers, carpeting, or any other product containing cellulose. Many molds are benign. Some are edible, such as mushrooms and the fungi that convert milk to cheese. Other molds, called mycotoxins, are claimed to produce toxins harmful to human health. Microtoxins can be absorbed into the human body through the intestinal lining, airway paths, and skin. Human exposure to mold can be very dangerous. Sometimes it's just annoying, like athlete's foot, but it is painful often and difficult to deal with. Mycologists have estimated that there are hundreds of thousands of species of mold, each having its own preference for moisture, temperature, and food source. Mold grows on all live plants, dead plants, animal matter, and in soil. Spores are borne about by the wind and are almost always found in indoor and outdoor air. They are a normal component of house dust. The label toxic mold is misleading. Mold is not itself toxic. Although some molds produce mycotoxins that have the toxic effect attributed to mold, molds are generally only life-threatening to infants, the elderly, or the infirm. No specific mold is always dangerous or harmless. Mold allergies are not rare. In fact, someone with a severe mold allergy may be worse off being exposed to an allergenic mold than a healthy person would be after being exposed to a toxic mold. In Voorhees versus Huber, a decision of the Western District of Kentucky, United States District Court in 2010, it was determined that one cannot maintain a cause of action by speculation. Voorhees speculated that mold in the sleeping area of his jail cell could be endangering his health. The plaintiff did not cite any symptoms that he experienced related to breathing the mold, such as coughing, allergies, headaches, etc. The court ruled that a speculative injury does not vest a plaintiff with standing. Now, mold, as we've said, comes in many different forms, hundreds of thousands of different forms. Some of the mold forms that are well known and that have come into the news include Aspergillus. Members of molds of this type are known for their ability to initiate the onset of allergies in humans as well as upper respiratory infections. The genus Aspergillus includes over 185 species. Around 20 species have so far been reported as causative agents of opportunistic infections in man. Among these, the most commonly isolated species are Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus niger. Species such as Aspergillus clavatus, Aspergillus glaucus group, Aspergillus nidulans, Aspergillus oryzae, Aspergillus terreus, Aspergillus ustus, and Aspergillus versicolor are less commonly isolated as opportunistic pathogens. Aspergillus is a group of molds found worldwide, especially in the northern hemisphere during autumn and winter. The fungus also causes allergic diseases in asthmatics and patients suffering from cystic fibrosis. Some produce mycotoxins that are carcinogenic in animals. Another type of mold is Cladoporium, the most commonly identified outdoor fungus. Cladosporium is a common allergen in humans. Colonies are dark greenish to black and relatively slow growing. The dark spores are one or two celled and occur in long branching chains that arise from a dark conidiophore. The youngest spore is at the top of the chain. The slightest movement will disrupt the chains, making microscopic mounts of the whole structure nearly impossible. The best way to recognize the genus is by the prominent scars on spores where the adjacent ones were attached. Very common on decaying plants, it is the fungus most commonly isolated from air, both indoors and outdoors, and has been called a common cause of asthma. Then there's the infamous or famous penicillium, which results in the great antibiotic penicillin. Regardless of its healing properties when refined as an antibiotic, penicillium may cause hypersensitivity and pneumonia-like diseases, as well as respiratory and skin allergies. Species of penicillium are recognized by their dense, brush-like spore-bearing structures. Branching is an important feature for identifying the penicillium species. Penicillium is a large and difficult group of fungi encountered almost everywhere. It is usually the most abundant type of fungi found in soils. Some species produce toxins and may render food inedible or even dangerous. Other species of penicillium are beneficial to humans. Cheeses such as Roquefort, Brie, Camembert, and Stilton are ripened with species of penicillium and are safe to eat, and in fact, from personal knowledge, delicious. The drug penicillin is produced by Penicillium chrysogenum, a commonly occurring mold in most homes. Some species, however, do produce mycotoxins. Infamously, there is the species Stachybotrys, a greenish-black fungus that grows on material with a high cellulose and low nitrogen content, such as fiberboard, gypsum board, paper, dust, and lint, that becomes chronically moist or water damaged due to excessive humidity, water leaks, condensation, water infiltration, or flooding. No one knows how often this fungus is found, since buildings are not routinely tested for its presence. However, one study in Southern California found it in 2.9% of 68 homes. Under the appropriate environmental conditions, it can produce several toxic chemicals. Stachybotrys is the mold most often found in residential locations and is the culprit in most insurance claims. The mycotoxins litigants claim it releases are chemicals present on the spores and the small fungus fragments that are released into the air. Although spores and other parts of this fungus are usually trapped in a wet, slimy mass of fungal growth, many health officials are concerned that spores may become airborne when the fungus dies and dries up. Because the spores are very small, some may be drawn into the lungs when airborne spores are inhaled. Stachybotrys causes significant health effects in humans. Individuals with chronic exposure have reported cold and flu symptoms, sore throats, diarrhea, headaches, fatigue, dermatitis, localized hair loss, and generalized malaise. It is claimed to produce mycotoxins that can suppress the human immune system. In a case called Housing Authority of Baltimore versus Roy, a 2006 decision of a Maryland appellate court, the court found that the testimony of a physician was sufficient to permit a finding by the jury that there was a cause and effect relationship between the Stachybotrys mold conditions at the property and the medical problems suffered by the residents. Yet in Henley versus Fairgrove R10 School District, a 2008 decision of a Missouri appellate court, the court found the plaintiff failed to carry the burden of proving causation from exposure to mold. Mold spores are hardened containers which contain all of the DNA instructions needed to create new mold creatures. If they bump into dry walls, they simply rebound and continue floating. When they bump into wet walls, however, they stick. When the shell of a mold spore is broken, mold is created by the emergence of several groping arm-like structures called hyphae. These hyphae are used by molds to obtain nourishment from sulfur grains in concrete, metals in paint, or for one especially abundant species found at some time in almost every house in northern temperate climates, the antibiotic produced when they land on wood. The hyphae excrete enzymes that break down complex organic materials. Mold typically grows on organic materials that remain moist for more than 24 hours. Materials exposed to high humidity can become moist enough to support mold growth. Good housekeeping requires, therefore, a reduction in humidity and the drying out of any moisture that might exist in organic compounds that could support mold growth. If proper maintenance is not followed, then the volatile organic compounds released by some molds that are toxic and associated with the sick building syndrome may grow and cause injury. This video was adapted from my book Mold Claims, Volume 1, which is available as both a Kindle book and as a paperback from Amazon.com. If you found this video to be interesting or useful to you or your colleagues, please pass it on. It's free. And please also subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Rumble channel, my blog, my Substack publication, and my locals community so that you can be informed of future videos and obtain future information about insurance and insurance claims. Thank you for your attention.